Thank you so much for joining me, Jacob. I know you had a chance to coach Luther. You also had a chance to coach a lot of really good wide receivers. I was just kind of curious. Luther being a second round pick was kind of surprising to a lot of people. Was it surprising to you at all?
Um, Going through this process with multiple guys through the years, the one thing you know is there is no exact science to the NFL process. A lot of times it's in the eye of the beholder, and sometimes you got to look at it. I mean, you're competing against not only guys at your position, but guys against every position across the board. So there's only 32 picks that get picked, and it's hard to get in that. Into the draft period. So we're excited for him. I mean, obviously, I think Chicago is a great fit, and what they do offensively is going to be perfect for him.
Yes, in some of your just impressions of Chicago, how do you see him fit from a wide receivers coach perspective?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I kept up. I was fortunate to be with Jared Goff when he was at Cal, and obviously with Coach Johnson, what he was able to do offensively in Detroit, and just kept up because of Jared, kept up with them a little bit, and was I just think number one, they got pieces around him, which is going to be great. For a guy, especially early in his career, no different was here at Mizzou. You get to kind of figure out where he fits into that. And, again, I think offensively, it's going to be, again, as I mentioned, I think it'll be a great fit for him.
Yeah, speaking of fits, how did you see Luther fit right away? I remember a couple of years ago, I was asking you what really stood
Yeah.
out. You said something like he just takes in information. This is a guy that shows up
Yeah.
day one. You wouldn't know that he was a five-star just because he asked everybody he could about information. What
Yeah.
impressed you so much about him early on?
Yeah, just number one, I think just his ability to process information and just again, I think he's a guy that comes to work every day and he's taking notes in meetings. He's sitting there. He's again asking the right questions post practice, post meetings, and we asked a lot of him. We moved him around a lot, whether it was in the backfield, whether it was at wide out, whether it was at slot, and we used him a lot of times in different motion packages and whatnot, and so I think just for him, getting implemented into the scheme, learning their terminology, I think there's always an adjustment period for everybody, whether it's a true freshman for us to a rookie. There's a lot of new information, and he's going to have to, dive into that. And I think, that's what mini camp and OTAs will be able to do for him.
In Coach Johnson's offense, there's a lot of motion. There's a lot of just getting guys different places, kind of trying to find a mismatch in that regard. But why is Luther so good in motion in that specific sense when you get to move him around?
Yeah, I think the best way I know it was described to me was if I give you a steak dinner right in front of you and we give you a spoon, I mean, you can make it work, but it's not going to be easy. So motions and shifts, what that does essentially is the knife and the fork. It allows you to dictate leverage, dictate things to the defense, and that's what that does. And you saw that a lot in his career here, and we're able to move him in different places and get him matched up on different people. And I think that'll be very familiar for him, translating into coach's offense.
You mentioned this too. You work with different guys. I know two of those guys, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, and there have been five SEC wide receivers in their freshman and sophomore years that have topped 1,200 yards in a single
Mhm.
season. That was AJ Brown under you in 2017, and Luther Burden a couple years ago in his sophomore season in 2023. I mean, well, how have you seen receivers like that grow in their second year? Why is it important to have that second year breakout, and why was Luther able to do that?
Yeah, I think number one, both of those guys were able to get a little bit of a taste of it as freshmen. Both came in and played as true freshmen, and honestly had some success, but also they did not have some success early in career. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to play in this league early in your career, and I think with the success and the failures, they learn from them, and were able to utilize those things that they learned as freshmen and really kind of translate that over into their second year. Again, um, I think that's the biggest thing for both of them. They were very, I don't want to say the same guy because they're not, but they're similar with the ball in their hands was the two things that you saw and their ability to break the first tackle and make a guy miss and turn a easy completion into an explosive. So those were the things that was similar. What they were able to do, going in their second year was, we have a saying in our room: "Never let the first offender make the tackle." And I think they both took pride in that. And you've seen them, but be able to do that their second year in college.
And what goes into that process of kind of teaching the, get rid of the first defender? Is that a process or is that kind of like a mentality that you can just feed off of?
No, I think it's both. Number one, some of it's God-given ability, right? We're not going to take credit for that, but some of that it is a mindset. And that's something we really challenge. Both of those guys early in their career, and everybody in our room was just we call it the $1 million rule. If you put $1 million in the end zone, that's ultimately what you're chasing with touchdowns. You're not going to let a guy tackle you. So it's a mindset, and it's something we preach. And both of those guys obviously did a tremendous job of doing that.
And when you have a guy like Luther, and like you said, like you put him a lot of different places, but when you put him in the slot, he started to thrive. But why was it important to have a guy like Theo Weiss on the outside to kind of complement Luther? And what does that compliment do for a guy like him?
No, it's huge. Even backtrack to AJ and DK, right? Like they were able to complement each other. No different with Theo. I mean, Theo was great for Luther. Obviously, coming in with being a veteran, older guy that had kind of gone through the process and was able to mentally, help Luther early on in his career. And when there were successes, great. But then when there was failures, he was able to kind of have a guy to lean on and kind of a mentor essentially. But Theo took some pressure off of him. So you want to play with a safety over top of Luther and take him out. Theo was able to take advantage of that, and so I think just that complementary piece, and that's what Chicago's getting with obviously the weapons they have. At that level, even more so than ours. You can't just have one, and so I think having multiple pieces that do different things, and I think that's the other part too. If you look at Theo and Luther, it's no different in a basketball team. They're different skill sets, different guys that can do different things. And so obviously, same thing with Chicago. You got a bunch of different guys that have different skill sets. So coach has got some great weapons at his hands.
It's kind of a broad question, but I was curious what you thought of this. It's just how fun was it to coach a guy like Luther with that talent, but also a way that he could learn so quickly?
Yeah, number one, I was just excited when he got the ball in his hands. It was, watch out. Yeah, that was what his one of his best attributes was just his yards after catch and just his ability to turn, like I mentioned earlier, a simple, easy play into an explosive, and just the growth though. I mean, he coming in as a freshman and you saw him continue to develop and as a route runner, saw him continue to develop different aspects of his game and just his ability to number one want to be told what he was doing, what he could get better at. Essentially, sometimes young guys just want to see the good plays; they don't want to see the bad ones. And I think at the end of the day, just his ability to, hey, coach, what do I need to get better at, and attacking that and seeing him translate that to the field over his career was fun.
Yeah, especially when you mentioned some of those just plays where you just give him the ball and just kind of let him go to work.
Yeah.
When we go back to the K-State game in 23, obviously that was a breakout game for just so many different reasons for the program. But uh,
Yep.
when you take Luther, he's got that first quarter, I mean, long touchdown. Yeah, everyone's on their feet, everyone's going nuts. But to me, the most impactful one was late in the game. You guys were down behind. He just takes a small screen and just goes to the end zone. I mean,
Yep.
you needed a big play and he's able to give it to you. But just how have you seen him kind of lean into that aspect of like just taking small things and then making big things out of small stuff?
Yeah, I think he had the nickname growing up, Touchdown Luther, and there's a reason for that. Like that play specifically, right? I remember we all that was a huge moment for us, and that play wasn't even designed to go to him. He was kind of a guy that was trying to draw attention to open up another teammate, and they had it covered, and Brady dumped it down to him. But again, that shows you that mindset, that Touchdown Luther. I mean, he took it and ran down the sideline and made that big play and ultimately ended up being a big difference in the game. But that's what you hold your breath when he gets the ball in his hands. I mean, the play is truly just getting started, and things that go along with it. Like I said, he's got a great skill set, but I think more so he just has a mindset that he wants to score touchdowns, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many plays. I mean, I asked Eli this the other day. It was like, no, what stands out to you? I mean, he listed, I mean, it was about like 30 seconds worth of just say, oh, UMass this year, Boston College this year. You can go back to 23. But what were some of the most outstanding Luther moments for you that came outside of a game?
Outside of the game, man, where to go? Like number one, I think one thing that goes for him is just his competitive character. People, I don't know if they quite understand how competitive it is. Like, we have stuff that we do outside of football where we're, whether it's putt putt or dodgeball or laser tag, just different things to kind of build continuity. Well, I just remember one day we're doing dodgeball on the game field, and here's a guy that literally walked on the field and he single-handedly won the whole thing, like, for his team. I mean, he's just so competitive. That's the thing. I think his competitive character is people don't quite understand. Like, I mean, whether it's video games, dodgeball, I mean, whatever it may be, it is off the charts. I mean, he truly is a competitor and he's elite at it. And so those are the things. Obviously, there's a bunch of other moments, but that's one thing that sticks out to me was just watching the guy compete in things outside of just football and how much it mattered to him to win.
Yeah, and I mean, when you talk about the competitiveness, I know when we had a chance to just get on the Zoom call after he was drafted, someone was asking him, who do you draw inspiration from? And I know a lot of people like to compare him to Debo Samuel. A lot of people like to compare him to Stephon Diggs, some of the professional receivers, but he said, I watch everybody. And I mean, a lot of kids will say that, but with Luther, like, I feel like you believe it because when you see the product on the field, there's a little bit of everything that goes into it. When it comes to his study habits, just how impressive was that? What did you see from a guy like that who was a 5-star but studied like he was a 2-star?
Yeah, no, I think that's just his daily approach, coming in every day, being very humble. Again, he's a guy that maybe didn't have to be. I mean, some guys come in and they carry that 5-star mindset, and he was never like that. Just came in very humble, wanting to prove himself. And then again, we always at the end of the season, we always ask, hey guys, hey, who are guys you want to study? NFL guys from the previous season, and they would always go through and watch. And he's a guy that would always ask for several guys, to your point. And I think you see a little bit of that, just wanting to add this element from this guy's game and this element from another guy's game. And Luther's uniquely Luther. And that's the thing I think he's cool with, is being him. He is his own skill set is his own skill set, and he's comfortable in his own skin. And I think that's the cool part, is just going to be able to watch him take, obviously coming in as a 17-year-old true freshman to where he is now, going to the next level, and excited to see that growth continue.
And when you talk specifically about just his past season in 24, a lot of people will point to, well, he had 1,200 yards in 23, but that production dipped in 24. I mean, it really doesn't seem like for a guy like that, you should be worried about production. If he did it once, he was an All-American. Reason to believe he should be able to do it again. But why shouldn't people in Chicago be worried about that? Because I know there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that went into that from this season. Some of which were obviously out of his control. And I think the biggest thing from that was just there was never a moment where he did not walk in with a smile on his face. And a lot of guys we all know, could have pointed a finger or done any of that. He never did. The guy was awesome on the sideline. He was a great teammate, very well respected, not only in the locker room, but in his position room among his peers. And that's the thing, I think, at the end of the day. I mean, 2 years ago, teams started trying to take away him as the season went on, and he was the biggest advocate for our running back at the time, named Cody Schrader, and was blocking his tail off for him. And in critical moments, I mean, he nicknamed him Cody the Shredder, and he's like, we got to do our deal for Cody. I mean, just I think the selflessness of it. Receiver, lack of better term, is a selfish position. You better want the ball, or you're playing the wrong position. So, but he was never that way. He was very selfless and maintained that his entire career. And when he had his opportunities, he took advantage of it. So, I think the sky's the limit for him. And like I mentioned before, I'm excited that he's in Chicago. I think that's going to be a great fit for him.
When you talk about the blocking aspect of it, Coach Johnson, I think last week said, we want to instill that mentality, no block, no rock. But
Mm-hmm.
we go back to that Cody point. I remember Tennessee in 23 when Cody had that all world game. I mean, over 200
Mm-hmm.
yards or 300, maybe. I can't remember, but he
Yeah.
put himself in the Heisman race with that specific game. Luther was a big reason because he blocked so well in that game. I mean, but when you recall that skill, how has that skill set of his grown, especially as a receiver?
No, I think honestly, you get every high school freshman or high school senior that comes in as a true freshman, I should say. they're all the best players on their high school team. They're all used to getting the ball, and I think that's the biggest thing is they realize very quickly that perimeter blocking is the gift to the game. That's the best thing for a wide receiver is a run game, and he knows that, and that's where again that year was a true testament to that. And he bought into it completely. And he understands that that's how you win and that's how you're successful. And then, obviously more opportunities in the pass game come because safeties get involved in all the different things. And so you're able to run by him. So he 100% understands that. And I know he's going to be excited, for the opportunity to again, win football games and whatever it takes, he's going to do that.
And the last one I have, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I did the same with Luther or with Eli. What's your favorite Luther moment? Could be a play, could be a game, just anything in general.
Honestly, favorite Luther moment. I think it was probably after the Cotton Bowl win. We're on the field, confetti's falling, and we're just sitting there, and we're just kind of having a personal moment where we just hug each other and we embrace, and he's crying, I'm crying. It's just kind of those moments that when all the hard work kind of comes to fruition, and there's the plays are the plays and the moments are the moments. But I think at that moment, it was kind of like, man, like all the hard work, all that time that we spent together, all the hard practices to the weights and all that kind of came to a full circle in that moment. So, but that's what I remember is just that embrace with each other, that night and, getting to finish that special season.
I mean, he caught the game-sealing touchdown. So I mean,
He did do that
and
in a
maybe
big one, in a big one.
yeah, it was funny because Eli didn't even bring that up. Asked him, "What are your favorite plays?" And he didn't even mention the game-sealing touchdown. I was like, that was, I mean, the key moment of the season where like, yeah, Luther started it and he finished it too. So,
Yeah. Oh, that was a big, yeah, that was a huge touchdown, obviously in that game.
but thank you so much, Jacob. I appreciate you
Yeah.
taking.